Well, afternoon and welcome to Lunch and Learn. This is the October issue of Lunch and Learn. We've been around for several years now, offering programs on code and technical legislation, regulation that affect the HVACR industry. Our guests includes manufacturers and distributors, and today a local inspector. Dennis Curry is a senior mechanical inspector in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and he'll be addressing several issues, including attic access, condensate line, as well as other issues that come to mind during the program. Dennis, welcome to Lunch and Learn.
Thank you for having me, Tom. Glad to be here.
It was August of 24 that you were on last. We appreciate you coming back.
Oh, no problem.
We do want to make sure that people understand that you're in Fort Smith and available for people to call on there as well as inspections. How do they get in touch with you?
You can call the city of Fort Smith at 479-784-2238, or now you can go to the city of Fort Smith website and go to permits and things, and there's a link in there for a thing called City View Portal. And once you sign up for that, you can request permits, pay for inspections, request inspections. You can handle a lot of it online now.
That's cool. Well, today we're going to start off with the 2021 IMC 306.3 appliances in attics. Read this for us, would you please?
Attics containing appliances shall be provided with an opening and unobstructed passageway large enough to allow the removal of the largest appliance or piece of equipment.
Okay, Dennis, I know you've been in them. I know I have too, where that the only access into the attic was into a little reach-in closet that had a space just barely big enough for a skinny fella to work his way through, and there were clothes and shelves all the way up nearly to the top. That doesn't exactly work for this definition and requirement, does it?
Not anymore, it does not.
If you look at this picture here, it sort of shows that it would be vertical, but if you can think of you looking down from the top, and that's just a hole there that goes from the living area up into the attic. Uh, it's got to be what, 20 by 30? Is that right?
20 by 30, if you have equipment in the attic, is the absolute smallest, but that's only if that piece of equipment will fit through that hole.
Well, now let me ask you this. That definition, will it fit through the hole? Does that mean intact, or can you disassemble it, take it in pieces and get it through and it still be okay?
You're not going to be able to disassemble in regards to, say, just the furnace and disassemble.
Okay. Okay. So whatever the dimension is, if you measure it, that hole better be that big.
That's correct. And most will fit through until you start getting into your larger tonnages, fours and fives. Then the 30 will work. It's the 20 that'll get you. You might have to go up 3 or 4 inches to get a 5-ton gas furnace, or even in some cases a 5-ton air handler through that hole.
When I was getting up into attics, the 20 wouldn't hardly work for me, let alone the equipment.
Uh,
That's
I'm not going to comment on me.
all right. Now, if you've got a clear access opening into the attic and you got your appliance over there, how close does that appliance have to be to the opening?
The furthest it can be, absolute furthest, is 50 feet. But then there's some other requirements you're going to have to meet to do that. In most cases, 20 feet, and then you only have to provide a 30-inch tall crawlway at 20 feet.
Oh, 22 by 30 passageway. One of the things that if people are reading in the code that I had to do some real close looking at was they would talk about a passageway and then they would talk about an opening, and I was trying to get those things confused. Um, but here, if you got a little past, the reason I drew it like this, Dennis, was it would look like a guy was crawling back there. Have you ever had to crawl back there to be able to see what was
Oh,
going on?
oh yeah, I still do when I go out on inspection sometimes.
Yeah. Yes, sir. If you can crawl through it, it's got to be It's got to be at least 30 inches high.
30 inches high and 22 wide.
All right. Now, the reason I said I got a little confused is because the access opening only has to be what, 20 inches wide? Is
20
that
by
right?
30.
20 by
That's,
30. But then they say, hey, if you're going to crawl through there, it's going to take a little bit bigger space. It's got to be 22 by 30.
that's correct.
All right. Poor guy.
Because you're on your hands and knees, and most of it's from the knee down are going to kick our legs out a little
Yeah.
bit of an angle, and they want to keep them boots on there if they can.
Kind of just a
Crawlway
little,
has to be 24 wide.
well, that was another thing that I didn't quite understand because, in fact, we'll look at this here that you've got to have a passageway flooring. And that's another definition in there, a passageway flooring. It's 24 inches wide. I didn't quite understand that, but
But let's say you had a piece of duct.
yeah.
You're running kind of along the tops of the joists, and you're going to have to offset up, over, and back down to provide
Mm,
for the crawlway.
uh-huh.
What they're telling you is as long as you leave a space 22 inches wide and 30 inches tall, and you have a 24-inch wide passageway or flooring, it's code acceptable. You can narrow that down a couple of inches and it will be accepted.
Now, I've got a question for you. Retrofit. Typical house built, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago. They've got no flooring, no work area in front of the furnace. Do they have to put in flooring for that case?
So
Or is it?
in that case, they should put in at least the flooring.
Hmm.
The part that they will have some leniency on is if it's a free and clear crawl space. So if there's enough headroom and they've got the flooring, but they weren't hired to change the ductwork per se, they're just
Yeah, yeah.
equipment. And if I can go up that ladder and go down that walkway and step over something, uh, I'm still going to accept it if what I stepped over was already existing in
Hmm.
place.
But now
But
what if there was no flooring there at all? Does a retrofit have to add it?
we make them add the flooring to at least to get to it, so there's less chance of the technician stepping through a ceiling.
And you got to have that 30 by 30 space in front of the furnace wherever you access it, right?
Uh, we usually let them shave that down to the same width as the walkway, being a retrofit to 24.
Okay. So if it's 24 by 24, including the area in front of the furnace, they're okay, but they have to add it if it's not already there.
That's correct. Now
Wow.
we make them add that in Fort Smith, uh, not only for them but for us.
A lot of times, I scratch my head and I wonder, well, why is that? And I realize, especially on this case, it's for the safety of the technician and the installer that you've got it there.
That's
You,
correct.
you ever step through a ceiling?
I've stepped through four. One while I worked for Fort Smith. I actually stepped through the ceiling on an inspection. Flipped off the walkway because they had a pipe going over the walkway and they were
Yeah.
going to feel for that too. But as I stepped over it, going around the corner, I slipped off the edge and went right through the ceiling.
Oh my, that's hilarious. That's a good story. I'm gonna tell on you since you're telling it publicly right now.
Several of them already know it. And a lot of
That's
my former employees from when I was a contractor, they work for me and they've seen me step through, and many of them have stepped through one too.
Now that walkway, I put this in there just so it'd be easy for people like me to remember. It needs to be 2 feet wide, right?
2 feet wide. That's correct.
uh, barefoot or shoes, it's got to be 2 feet wide. Yes, sir. Now, okay, especially these days, you've got some really tall attics areas, and people want to put that furnace or the air handler like a, in the next county, nearly, it seems like. Uh, Things change a little bit. Explain that now.
So if you're going to locate your appliance in the attic up to 50 feet away from the access and the equipment access,
Yes, sir.
you have to have 6 foot of head clearance. They should be able to walk there. And of
Okay.
course, it has to be lighted as well
Ah,
to get there. Uh, Now, what I've had a couple of houses, they were actually at 80 feet away from the access hole for the equipment. What we had them do is you have the access that the equipment comes in and out of. Over by the equipment itself, we allowed a smaller access for just a technician and a walkway closer to the unit
hmm.
that they could get out, because that is for safety as well. It's in the summers, we're in them attics, they're really hot. Part of that is we don't want you up there extended period of times taking 20 minutes to cross a 145, 155 degree attic to get to the equipment while carrying your tool bag in the middle of a hot day. You know,
Mm-hmm.
every minute and every foot is more danger of you to slip, stroke, overheat.
Yeah.
So knowing that that's the intent of this, your authority having jurisdiction can add, is they can go stricter than, and it's not a problem. So by saying, hey, I can't let you put this up here at 80 feet away from that access crawl hole that's big enough for the equipment. And they had a beautiful walkway, even had safety rails on it in the attic.
Wow.
We had them put a 14 by 20 crawl in a closet like you talked about at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, used to run
Mm-hmm.
into, and had a little walkway there, and it was 4 foot from the appliance, and that was the service access.
So you're doing your best to work with people.
Oh yes, yes, always, always.
You know, Dennis, every talk I give, I talk about the partnership between the heating and air conditioning contractor and the local inspector. It is a mutual goal to serve the needs of the homeowner. And by working together, that goal is more easily met and the homeowners benefited from it. It's not adversarial. It only becomes adversarial when one party decides to make it that way. And as long as we understand that we're buddies, trying to help the homeowner, I think it goes a lot better. All
That's
right.
the way I feel. I'm not their enemy. I'm their cheap insurance.
Yeah, that's true. Much better to be caught early than to have to come back later and fix it. Okay, you mentioned a while ago that you've got to have a light up there. This was taken out of the commentary, trying to give some pictures of how you might set that up. You want to talk about that?
Yes. We start with the light switch. Your switch has to be at the entrance to the attic space. That can be down in the hallway
Mm-hmm.
or at the top, but you're supposed to be able to reach that off the ladder before you fully step into that attic to switch that light on.
Yeah.
And you would like the light located. It's not necessarily so that you can see to work by, it's so you can see to manage that crawlway to get to the equipment. We're all going to carry our little work lights up in that unit to, to look. So this is more for you to get to the equipment, not to work on the equipment.
Now, who installs that?
Typically speaking, the electrician does, but then that goes by your area with some changes that were actually made with the code. It could be argued that your heat and air license would allow you from a disconnect to do this, although
Hmm.
the mounting of the fixture uh, and the receptacle, that could be called into question. So I would probably have to pass that to Mr. Woodard or the next head of the electrical department at the state.
I got you. All
I
right.
didn't have to worry about it because I was licensed electrician and licensed heat and air guy. I could do
Yeah.
it. But
Okay. We've accessed it. Now we got to talk about auxiliary and secondary drains. Um, You want to go down through these? Item 1 from the code starts out with auxiliary drain pan with separate drain.
Yes. So if you have an auxiliary drain pan, or as a lot of them call it, an emergency pan underneath the equipment,
Mm-hmm.
then if you're going to just run it out, it has to be, and I'm going to mess this up, I'm from Arkansas, conspicuous point of where it drops. And in Fort Smith, what we count that as is if you're dropping it on the front porch where they would walk up and see a water puddle that shouldn't be there, their back porch or side porch, same thing. If you want to do it there, or outside the garage door, so it'd be your driveway, you're
Uh-huh.
going to pull up, you're going to see water, and you don't normally see water there.
Okay.
We allow all those points because it's easily seen. And then the depth of that pan is a minimum of 1.5 inches. Most of them are buying pre-manufactured that meet or exceed that point.
Okay.
Uh, it's supposed to be larger, 3 inches larger than the dimensions of the unit. So you should have overhang to the left and right, the front and the rear. Uh, Once again, you can buy them. I've seen them as long as 97 inches. So they build them pretty large. You want corrosion resistant material. Uh, we they've in the past been made out of galvanized sheet metal. Same thing our ductwork's made out of, a little thicker. Uh, it could be argued that you have to spray something in it because it could be corroding. But
Mm-hmm.
with that, remember, we're trying to stop that pan as being used as a drain pan.
Yeah.
So if everything works great for years and years and years before you change your system, no water ever enters that pan. Therefore, it can never rust. Therefore, it won't corrode. Uh, However, right below it says galvanized not less than 24 gauge. And then if you go non-metallic, like our plastics, at 0.0625 inches.
All right. Item 2 on there talks about a separate overflow drain.
So the separate overflow drain is usually mounted on the coil itself. Your coil has a primary drain, and then you'll see another little hole right next to it. But when you look into it, half of it's blocked off.
Okay.
So that is an overflow drain. So that pan should never reach so high for water to come out at that point. And if it does, then we want to shut down the unit with some type of safety switch, and we want to direct it to our emergency pan or our overflow pan
I see.
so that we can get rid of it.
Item 3 on there. What if no auxiliary drain line is provided?
So if no auxiliary drain line is provided, so if you're not going to run that auxiliary line, uh, then that's where we get a little gray area here. By what
Okay.
this says is I don't have to have an emergency pan if I run the line off my auxiliary drain that comes with my coil. But that has not been the interpretation by the state, is my understanding. If you install a piece of equipment in the attic that produces condensate, you're going to put an emergency pan under it, regardless of if you take the secondary overflow line out or not. So that would be something at a later point in time that we'd want to clarify.
You know,
But we want a way
I,
to shut it off.
I can't imagine a contractor not having that safety valve. In other words, that's what I'm calling it. I mean, that safety pan, because if you've ever had a unit overflow and then overflow the pan, you can the the hundreds, thousands of dollars of damage that you can create, you can wind up getting to replace a large room sheetrock, the ceiling. You can screw up the whole ceiling. My goodness.
Past experience, I have paid for one. So, and we actually had the pan there.
Uh-huh.
But we installed all of our stuff prior to the insulators coming in. And when
Mm,
spiders blew the insulation, they actually filled that pan all the way up.
yeah.
And we were using a mechanical overflow device,
Uh-huh.
a bobber that raises, and the insulation didn't let it raise. So it filled up
Oh dear.
my emergency pan and then overflowed from there. And then, of course, it was a day or two before it really got noticed, before it really started soaking through. And by the time that happened,
Oh,
yeah, we were hooked on a part of the living room, which was a big open room, and
I'm
utility room,
hurting.
which is where our unit was above the ceiling. And it got the little hallway, of course, too. So yeah, that cost me a little bit, but we
Well,
learned a lesson.
one of the things I appreciate about your story is that when you've got an inspector who's been in the field with their own company, you've experienced these things. You also know the difficulties in being able to adhere to code. And you also know you get it both sides. You know how it's why sometimes it's difficult, and then you also know why it's so important. So you're able to protect the homeowner and also able to protect and try to help the contractor understand. So I appreciate that perspective. Okay, shut off if the primary drain is blocked. This is item 4 in the code.
That's correct. So there's a lot of ways you can meet this. Uh, Use water level monitoring devices. If you follow code in every position, you would really only end up with one.
Mhm.
Uh, I am happy to say this. Most of the contractors that I inspect and doing work, they actually have built in own little redundancy. They're putting one in on the primary drain, and they're putting another one in the emergency pan, or buying a pan that it comes with, and they're getting a little double protection for their buck. And because they don't want to go back and replace the ceiling and paint a wall, or have it destroy grandma's quilt. Uh, you
Well,
know,
well, until you've had to replace a ceiling, you'll probably kind of cringe a little bit when you think about the labor and time it takes to install that extra protection. But once you've had to replace a ceiling, you realize that is cheap insurance.
cheap, cheap. So if you have a normal cooling cool condensate drain, like on this picture's for something else, but let's say you have this, and you put your float switch where it has the condensate pan drain and the clean out, and
Yes,
you
sir.
buy the float switch that you use as a clean out and overflow switch. They have some really nice products out here now. And then you have your pan under that, and let's say you couldn't get that drain to a place that met code for a source, you could put another float switch in that pan and then tie that drain back into this drain
Mhm.
with a shut off, and that gives you double protection. And after you've fixed the problem, you can open that shut off on your emergency pan and drain that water out and have it ready to go for next time, without carrying a wet dry vac in an attic that can be dropped by your employee while it's full.
One
And
more voice of experience. We're
uh,
gonna run on to here. Condensate on a 90 plus. This came as 307.1 in the code.
yes, so use the manufacturer's directions in conjunction with the code. Uh, a lot of them already have traps built in.
Mm.
Uh, a lot of them will allow you to tie into your condensate for your evaporator coil if installed properly. Um, the big thing is your disposal area. Fort Smith does not allow you to take that to sanitary sewer. There's a lot of other cities that don't allow that either. So you're going to be taking that outside to some form of French drain, because you can't have the pipe open where air can blow up and freeze it. So you're going to be taking it underground somewhere at
Mm.
some, but use your traps where required for your evaporator condensate. Go back to your directions on your furnace, because a lot of them have the trap for the furnace already built in. So you don't have to put a second trap on
Gotcha. This, you may note there that we asked for an opinion from the state chief inspector, and that's exactly what he was saying there. They're not required on the furnace, but you can, if they're allowed by manufacturer's instructions, tie them into the evaporator drain, but you got to follow the manufacturer's instruction. That's always our fallback position, isn't it? Whatever the manufacturer says.
most times. We will follow manufacturer's directions. I can't say 100%, but about 98% of the
Hmm.
time. There are some products out there that their instructions violate the code.
Hmm.
At that point, if it is a straight up code violation, I have to go with the stricter.
Now, here's a cool thing that everybody's dealing with these days, and that's mini splits. Talk about a mini split trap.
Mini split traps usually come with the mini split. What they want you to do is take the drain line that they provide you, form it into an S trap, and tape it, and that becomes the trap for the ductless mini.
Hmm.
A lot of times that's how they want you to trap it and take it outside. They're usually mounted on an outside wall. If not, they're going to have a little pump that's going to pump it. If that's the case, it's a little different because the pump connects straight to the ductless mini in most cases. So there is no trap because it's
Okay.
pumped. And one thing to remember, ductless minis are required by state to be installed in commercial applications or rental property by a licensed HVAC contractor. Arkansas does allow a homeowner to install them in their own home, but they have to follow the same rules and pull the same permits and get the same inspections. So at this time, even if you go to Lowe's and it says DIY, you still have the state laws and codes to follow as well as your local jurisdiction.
Which I'm sure if I was a homeowner and I had not been in the heat and air business, I'd be offended. I'd say, by golly, it's my own house. I can do what I want to. But it goes back to the issue of the code's there to protect you. And just because you think you don't need to abide by the law doesn't mean you can drive 100 miles an hour on the interstate. They will catch you for that too.
Yeah, and you don't want to go down the rabbit hole. Is I get to pick what laws I follow. That means you pick them too, and yours might
Yeah.
be different than mine.
Yeah, that's right. So if you want to know more, you can contact Dennis Curry at the City of Fort Smith, D. Curry at Fort Smith, Arkansas, or just fortsmithark.gov,
AR.gov. Yes.
ar.gov. Absolutely. So, Dennis, I want to thank you so much for being part of the program today, for being the program today. And I appreciate what you do in Fort Smith. And just the other night, I got an opportunity to be with you in a meeting up there, and I appreciate all the comments that you made. You know, one thing that I've learned is that we can all learn a little bit, and I learned a lot from you that night. But
I
for
learned something
folks,
new that night too.
for folks that have got code questions and they want to ask what the state's perspective is on it, you can call 501 682 9201, 582 682 9201. And this email right here is just the best email you can possibly have if you're trying to renew your license or trying to find out what's going on at the state level. It's ADLL dot HVAC at arkansas.gov. One more time, ADLL dot HVAC at arkansas.gov. That to give them a couple of days. They got lots of people trying to get in touch with them every day. So here's what I always tell folks: send an email, make a copy of the email to prove that you were really trying to do the right thing, and then wait a couple of days and send it again if you hadn't heard from them. But they will get to you, and I have heard the nicest things about the nicest people being able to get you your license and answer your questions. So keep this information because it'll be a big help to you. Now, we'll be together again November the 10th, 2025. That's the second Monday of the month. One more time, Dennis, thank you so much for being here. And a big thanks to each of you for listening into the program or for joining via YouTube. Several companies and schools make these programs part of their in-house training. Our goal is to provide educational opportunities to the industry, and we welcome you to consider a membership in the Arkansas HVACR Association. We have chapter meetings and 2 hours of continuing education every October and February. Come to the meetings, have a good meal, and never have to worry about meeting the continuing education requirement for renewing your license. Until November, be safe, be healthy. We'll see you then.